The story begins on April 8, 1943, 27,000 feet above the town of Caen, France, where Oberleutnant Ralph Hermichin, a seasoned German ace from Jagdkoschwader, observed with a smirk the awkward silhouettes of American P-47 Thunderbolts climbing laboriously toward his formation through the clear canopy of his Fock, Wolf 190A5. Hermichin and his comrades in the Luftwaffe saw these massive Republic P-47s as flying milk bottles, clumsy and unwieldy machines struggling to gain altitude with their powerful horsepower Pratt & Whitney R280 double Wasp engines, yet burdened by a 7-ton weight. To the German pilots, accustomed to sleek Spitfires and agile Soviet fighters, the bulky American aircraft seemed almost comical. What these German pilots did not realize, nor could have imagined, was that they were witnessing the arrival of a weapon that would systematically destroy the Luftwaffe's fighter arm. Within 18 months, the so-called flying milk bottles would evolve from objects of ridicule into instruments of terror, their 8.50 caliber Browning machine guns becoming the most feared sound in German skies. Laden with 300-400 rounds and capable of firing 6,000 rounds per minute, the P-47's concentrated firepower could shred an enemy aircraft in less than 2 seconds. The transformation began that April morning when Major Donald Bowley, commanding the 335th Fighter Squadron and a former RAF Eagle Squadron veteran, spotted the German formation preparing to attack. Billy understood what many of his men did not. Surviving in a P-47 required abandoning everything pilots had previously known about air combat. Unlike the lightweight, climb-and-turn optimized fighters the Germans built, Republic Aviation had crafted a high-altitude juggernaut, one that wielded mass, power, and firepower to fundamentally redefine aerial warfare. Among the 56 American pilots scattered across the French sky that day were future legends, pilots destined to become aces whose names would instill fear in Luftwaffe hearts. Yet on that day, they were novices in an untested machine, facing the most experienced fighter force in the world. German veterans had fought continuously since 1939 across multiple fronts, while the Americans had 0 combat days. This narrative is about how American industrial might overcame German tactical brilliance through a merger of quantity and quality, and how what began as German laughter turned to terror upon discovering what synchronized Browning machine guns could do at 400 yards. The P-47 Thunderbolt was born out of a 1940 panic when German forces swept across France and Republic Aviation's chief designer, Alexander Karv, was tasked with creating a high-altitude interceptor to match the Luftwaffe's best. Instead, he built a dinosaur of a fighter, massive, powerful. The XP-47B prototype, first flown in May 1941, shocked observers with its 900-pound empty weight, 65% heavier than its predecessor. Its complex turbo-supercharger system produced sea-level performance at stratospheric heights, enabling it to maintain full power at 27,000 feet where German fighters struggled for air. Though initially despised, training took a toll on American pilots. Those who mastered the Iron Giant discovered its extraordinary power. Lieutenant Robert Johnson, a farm boy from Oklahoma, who would become one of America's top aces, described his first flight as strapping yourself to a locomotive. Early combat tests confirmed German prejudices. The P-47 struggled to turn or climb against the nimble Fock Wolf 190s and Messerschmitt Bf 109s. German pilots exploited this by forcing turning fights where agility mattered over firepower. Commanding Officer Joseph Priller of Jagdgeschwader 26 mockingly called the American fighters fat targets pretending to be warriors, dubbing them Indiana after Curry. Initial American losses seemed to confirm this. British RAF pilots even joked that the best evasive maneuver in a P-47 was for the pilot to unstrap and run around inside the cockpit. However, German intelligence failed to notice that the P-47s, which fell, had taken tremendous punishment. One aircraft returned with 21 cannon holes and more than 100 machine gun strikes, damage that would have shattered a Messerschmitt or Spitfire. The radial engine, lacking vulnerable cooling systems, shrugged off hits that would halt liquid-cooled fighters. More importantly, when the P-47s got guns on target, the results were devastating. Their sustained firepower created a destructive convergence zone unknown to the German pilots, allowing continuous fire for over 30 seconds, an eternity in aerial combat. A turning point occurred on June 26, 1943, over Lazo, France. Lieutenant Robert S. Johnson, flying in a formation of 48 P-47s returning from escort duty, was attacked by 16 Foch Wolf 190s from Jagdgeschwader 26 led by Hedman Galland, brother of Adolf Galland. Johnson's plane suffered catastrophic damage, his canopy shattered, the engine cowling torn away, and fire erupting behind the instrument panel. Wounded and trapped when his canopy jammed shut from an exploded shell, Johnson managed to control the crippled aircraft despite minimal visibility and failing controls, eventually limping back toward England at under 170 mph. In a dramatic encounter, a German pilot in a single Foch Wolf 190 relentlessly fired cannon and machine guns at Johnson's plane, but was stunned to see the battered P-47 still flying. The pilot saluted in disbelief before turning away, out of ammunition. Johnson's plane landed safely with over 200 bullet holes, multiple structural damages, and critical engine hits. This remarkable survival sent shockwaves through both air forces. American engineers realized they had underestimated their own creation, and German intelligence initially refused to believe such resilience was possible. By mid-1943, American pilots learned to exploit the P-47's strengths. Lieutenant Colonel Hubert Zemke, commander of the 56th Fighter Group, advised against turning or climbing with German fighters at low altitude. Instead, pilots used the Thunderbolt's weight and power to dive at speeds exceeding any German fighter's ability to follow. Captain Walker Mahurin developed the boom and zoom tactic, climbing to high altitudes and diving down at enemy fighters with devastating speed and firepower. German survivors described such attacks as facing a wall of lead, with enemy planes disintegrating upon entering the P-47's firing zone. The power of the P-47 was further demonstrated during the August 17, 1943 raids on Schord Bitch Hall and Regensburg, where German twin-engine Messerschmitt Bf-110s were pulverized within seconds. The aircraft carried 400 rounds total, and the ammunition mix ensured destruction and ignition. American ace Colonel Francis Gabreski recounted seeing planes literally explode under combined firepower. By late 1943 and 1944, the P-47's turbocharged engine allowed it to outperform German fighters at altitude. German ace Hans Philipp was lost during a battle at 28,000 feet when his Foch Wolf 190 was sluggish in thin air. The American engines maintained full power where German fighters suffocated. A new variant, the P-47D-22, arriving in 1944, featured a powerful paddle blade propeller that improved climb rates and acceleration, eliminating former weaknesses. Veteran German pilots noted the Thunderbolts had learned to climb, matching and exceeding their aircraft. The distinctive roar of their supersonic blade tips earned them the nickname Donnerschlag, thunderclap, from German ground troops. With external fuel tanks, P-47s began escorting bombers deep into Germany by 1944, forcing the Luftwaffe to focus on attacking bombers surrounded by lethal fighter screens. Top German ace Major Gerhard Barkhorn described how the flying pigs descended like avalanches, transforming German fighters into burning debris with streams of fire. As the war progressed, P-47s shifted to ground attack roles, unleashing devastating fire on German vehicles and troops during the Normandy campaign. Their heavy machine guns, bombs, and rockets earned the nickname Jabos, fighter bombers. German soldiers recounted the terror of low-level attacks that annihilated columns of trucks and armored vehicles within seconds. On D-Day, more than 500 P-47s created an impenetrable air umbrella over the beaches, decimating German fighters attempting to intervene. German pilots like Oberleutnant Wolfgang Fischer warned that the sky belonged to the Americans, despite desperate German countermeasures, reinforced armor, more anti-aircraft guns, and new camouflage. None could halt the P-47's combination of speed, armor, and firepower. Even feared 88 Bumim flak guns found it difficult to target their fast, low-flying prey. The P-47's success extended to the Pacific, where the 348th Fighter Group adapted tactics for vast distances and harsh conditions. Colonel Neil Kirby led missions shooting down numerous Japanese aircraft, earning the Medal of Honor. Japanese ace Saburo Sakai called the P-47s monsters, noting their near immunity to 20mm cannon fire and terrifying counterfire. The P-47N variant, with increased fuel capacity, could escort B-29 bombers to Japan, confirming the fighter's evolution from short-legged machine to long-range weapon. Even encounters with German jets like the Messerschmitt Me-262 proved that P-47 pilots could catch and destroy jets during vulnerable takeoff, landing, and high-speed dives. Lieutenant Colonel John C. Meare became one of the first to shoot down an Me-262, proving the P-47's firepower could overcome speed disadvantages. In 1945, during Operation Bodenplatte, nearly 900 German fighters launched surprise attacks on Allied airfields, but were met by rapidly replaced American P-47s. Major George Brooking's legendary retort, "Be tomorrow, we'll have 40 new ones. How long will it take you to replace your pilots?" symbolized the overwhelming American industrial capacity. Over 15,000 P-47s were produced during the war, many built faster than Germany's simple fighters despite their complexity. These machines comprised 65,000 parts, miles of wiring, and thousands of precision components, assembled primarily by workers unfamiliar with aviation before the war. American ammunition production was equally vast, delivering over 10 million rounds monthly by mid-1944, with cartridges manufactured to extraordinary tolerances for reliable firing. Meanwhile, pilot training outpaced Germany dramatically. By 1944, 30,000 pilots graduated annually in the US, each with hundreds of hours of training on advanced fighters, compared to German pilots who entered combat with less than 100 hours. This training advantage was evident in combat. American pilots arrived in Europe well prepared, having practiced formation flying, gunnery, and tactics even against captured German aircraft, with intimate knowledge of their own machines. Lieutenant Eugene Roberts exemplified this, entering his first mission knowing precisely what to do, facing less experienced German opposition. By war's end, even German propaganda officials acknowledged the P-47 as the best fighter bomber, combining unmatched firepower, durability, and performance. German ace Joseph Priller, who once mocked the P-47 as a pregnant cow, admitted its deadly efficiency and infinite ammunition in combat. The Thunderbolt embodied American industrial philosophy, overbuilt and overpowered, designed to absorb punishment and deliver overwhelming force. German assessments evolved from dismissive ridicule in 1943 to fearful respect by 1945, recognizing the P-47's critical role in the Luftwaffe's collapse. Statistics underscored the fighter's impact. Thousands of German aircraft destroyed in air and on the ground, tens of thousands of vehicles and locomotives annihilated, and an aerial kill ratio of 4.6:1 with the lowest Allied loss rate. The human toll was grim. Germany lost experienced pilots it could never replace, while American pilots averaged over 200 combat hours. In post-war reunions decades later, even former adversaries acknowledged their initial misunderstandings. General Adolf Galland confessed that the Germans had erred in underestimating the P-47, mistaking brute force and industrial capacity for a lack of air combat understanding. The Thunderbolt was no mere bomber. It was a fighter built for survival and overwhelming firepower, winning the war through relentless material superiority. By May 1945, the skies that once elicited German laughter belonged firmly to America, as the roar of the Thunderbolt's guns echoed the definitive end of the Luftwaffe. This third-person account captures the rise of the P-47 Thunderbolt from an object of mockery to a symbol of unstoppable American air power, charting its technical evolution, tactical adaptations, and enduring legacy as one of World War II's most formidable fighters.